It's a great honor to be here to share my experience about resiliency here at the West Michigan CEO Summit. Let me see if I can get my slides working. I am Dr. Michael Genord. I practiced clinical medicine for 20 years before I became the president and CEO of Health Alliance Plan. Health Alliance Plan is a nonprofit, mission-driven organization with over 1,000 employees. And our job is complicated. And for me, resiliency isn't about me. It's about the team that I create and a resilient leadership team to innovate around healthcare, to make it more simple, and to meet our members where they're at. And quite simply, the American Psychological Association talks about resiliency simply as one's ability to bounce back. I draw my experiences, my life experience, which I'm going to share today, because I think resiliency is a tank that you need to continue to fill so you have the capacity to bounce back. We've all had times in our life where we've had a lost loved one or a difficult opportunity. Inherently, humans are resilient. But it takes opportunity, practice, and time to maintain that resiliency. And it's important, there's an article from Common Connect that talks, resiliency is a team sport. We're ingrained very much that resiliency is about our own individual grit, our ability to get up when we're knocked down, when in actuality, resilient really has a profound effect on the network that you create around yourself. In fact, when you think about it, there is 8 notions in this article that talks about resiliency. One of them is simply, when you're overwhelmed and you have demand, I want you all to think, who in your network is your go-to person for that? When you're struggling for the path forward and you're overanalyzing and you have the inability to make that step, who is that person that says, Mike, take the next step, and then hold you accountable? Like that person that tells you, I'm going to run a marathon, they're doing that because they want you to hold them accountable. Who is the person in your network that looks about putting sense to things that may not be sensed? I call those the informal power brokers in the company. Mine was a head of facilities, Steve Schneider. He'd come into my office and he said, Mike, we got a mess on aisle 3. What that really meant was, can you sit down and slow down? He wanted to share something about the company to me that I wasn't seeing. You need to have someone in your leadership network that talks about fun, that can make you laugh. Or someone who just may take you out of work and move you to a different place for a while. So this network is important because we know that when we create a resilient network, if we don't create a resilient network, our stress increases. What does that do to us? Our stress hormones go up. We all get sweaty. You want to run. You want to go to safety. You want to go to the safe place. We know that that inhibits our ability to critically analyze and to move our organizations forward in a strategic thought. So it's a price when we don't invest in creating a leadership team it's not about me being resilient, it's about the team being resilient for the organization. We know that resilient leaders who possess a growth mindset will be the kinetic force that propels the organization forward. It'll allow them to accept your reality and acknowledging it. It's going to allow to see the silver lining so that we can adapt to be strategy-driven organization. If you're stressed and hunkering down, you cannot do that. It also will allow us to take those silver linings and put it in a path forward for a strategic focus going forward. Achieving long-term success, not settling for the fight and flight today at the price of the long-term success in the future. It's ironic, though, I don't know all about each of your experiences, but when I was being considered for this job or other leadership job, I had to have the Hogan assessment. I had to have this assessment. I had psychologists talking to me about the results. But invariably, everyone told me, you're going to be alone at the top. Leadership is lonely. And in fact, it's interesting because 51% of CEOs say they're lonely. 61% of leadership say it affects their ability to be a good leader. And loneliness chips away at their confidence as a leader. I hope you can see the collision of those two worlds. Resiliency tells you to have a network of individuals that erase loneliness, yet I was taking a job that told me I was supposed to be lonely. I asked myself, is that a protective thing because we're afraid to be vulnerable? Afraid to say we don't know? So I committed myself that I was going to be a CEO and I was never going to be lonely. I was going to break the mold, and I was going to draw on my past experiences, and I may do it differently, and people may scratch their head, but I was committed to it. And so you're going to have to trust me on this one. I was the quarterback of my high school team. I know this probably doesn't say that, but just trust me on this one. But as a quarterback, I sat and looked around the huddle. I had a diversity of thought and talent looking right back at me. They saw the field from a different perspective. They had a different role on the field. And it was no loneliness there. It was a team going together to solve the problem, to adapt, to be agile to the changing dynamics of the game. And so I was drawing on that as part of my new CEO role because I became a CEO in 2019 of a healthcare organization. We're not going to talk about COVID, but you understand that I took it right at the onset of COVID and sent 1,000 employees home to work. So I wanted to draw my experiences also on my next thing is that as a team, even great teams practice. And so I was recruiting my team, and I said, we're going to spend intentional time in team building. Eyes rolled. We got work to do. But I said, it's not going to be one time a year. It's going to be several times a year. So we brought Vicki Walker from Dion as part of our leadership coach. And we practice. And I started with a very strong team. And we heard earlier about the 5 dysfunctions of a team: trust, conflict, commitment, accountability, results. You can see June in 2020, I had a strong team. We still practice. We practice all the time. And Thursday and Friday, we were at the Ross Business School practicing again with our team coach. Our new team, after we added form, we're all green. What does a green team look like? First, the team coach said she's never coached a team that's all green. I'll tell you what it means for me. I'm not lonely. I have a great team around me that's solving problems. It means that Health Alliance plan is a 4.5-star plan for the last 4 years, putting us in the top 20 health insurance plans in the country. We're number 1 in J.D. Power's for commercial insurance the last 2 out of the 3 years. Regionally, we lead some of the highest net promoter scores judged by our regional associations. 98% of our physicians are satisfied dealing with Health Alliance plan. We're boxing above our weight. We're not the largest insurance company in the state of Michigan. The thing I'm most proud about, in the Henry Ford Health System has very high engagement scores. Health Alliance plan had the highest engagement scores of the employees of the entire system. Leadership matters. A resilient team mirrors the employees. They see it, they feel it, and they deliver it. As a physician, another thing I drew on my experiences is my time in the surgical venue. For 20 years, I was in and out of surgical rooms. And again, I looked at the diversity of the team. Yes, I was a surgeon, I was the leader in the room, but I always had another surgeon. I had a nurse, I had a circulating nurse, I had a surgical assistant, a surgical scrub tech, I had a nurse anesthetist. We had to level our titles and our structure. We not only had to invite those individuals to the table, we had to encourage them to eat with us. There was no loneliness in the surgical suite. We were all there for one reason. the best outcome for our patient at that time. And it's important to note that the Press Ganey shows that in healthcare, patients feel when the team is orchestrating their care. There's better outcomes, there's better consumer experience, there's better patient and physician satisfaction. So as I looked at these true facts, I knew that I had to lead differently. A theologian wrote, loneliness is the expression of anger during being alone. Solitude expresses the glory of being alone. So part of my resilient journey is there is times I'm going to feel alone. It's my job to make it a time in solitude. My solitude is with Jesus Christ. So I worship Scripture. I go into a time to ask him to give me answers that may not be in front of me. Others may have meditation. You may have yoga. You may practice other faiths. But as leaders, we owe it to our teams that at times of loneliness, we have to turn it to times of solitude. To create and search for successful answers in leadership capabilities as we went through the organization. It's imperative that we do that. And so at my times of loneliness, I go to that network of those people that are my self-pity. One of them is my faith. One of them is my wife. They'll say, buck it up. It's time to get out of the loneliness and get to a place that you owe to your team and your team expects of you. I'd be remiss not to put my family up here. People always say work-life balance. I say 100% family, 100% work. Manage your energy and not your time. People told me as a new CEO, you can't take this home to your family. I said, well, with all due respect, I know when my kids have a big test. I know when my wife is struggling with in-laws, illnesses. I know when there's a big event in the family. Why shouldn't they know that I close the books the first 2 weeks of every month and I may be a little testy? Or during the fall is AEP? Because the network that you build around you will help you be successful. My family knows it. That's the time when they make me laugh. Or my daughter says, Dad, we're going for a walk. They see it, they know it. I'm not going home and bringing it, but that is my support network. Because leadership resilience isn't about me, it's about the team I put around me that propel me to be a better leader for the organization. So I hope that you see that one of the things that I saw as a new CEO was I had to create a strong team, which required me to have an enormous amount of humility, vulnerability. I often end meetings, what question should I have asked, but I'm not smart enough to have asked it? Give me the answer, challenge me. So I did that, and then I think as a team, one of the things that's most important is we all need to know our purpose and mission. When leaders have a strong, compelling vision and leader, and the team does, your entire organization will follow you. I became the CEO in 2019. We put together a strategy plan with the outbreak of COVID. We lost a lot of money during COVID. Our employees, our board, told us just keep marching forward. I'm very fortunate to be part of Health Alliance Plan, which is a wholly owned subsidiary of Henry Ford Health System, who's been in this state for over 100 years through race riots, city bankruptcies. But what's core to their mission is working to improve the communities, solve health equity issues. And so as I do that, I am immensely proud that during all the chaos, when you invest in your team, and your overall mission is improving to high quality, affordable care across Michigan, and we celebrate our individual whys, we were able to navigate a very tough time in the first 3 years of me being a CEO. So building resilience isn't about me, it's about building a team. And it will lead to improved outcomes for both the organization and the communities we serve. I'm just going to leave you with one thought. Do we as leaders want to celebrate loneliness? Create resilient teams. Make it about them. And share that success through the whole company. Thank you.